to introduce Mark Modra. I'm not quite sure where to start, Mark, but Mark is an engineer, and he and his family have really had one of the most difficult experiences that I have witnessed in my career. Some of you may have seen some media coverage of Luke Modra's story, and it is very profound, and I must say that it may shock people. So if you're not in the mood for a shock, then you may need to go and get a cup of tea. I think the importance of Luke's story is that we think we have made some progress, and then you come across the story of someone like Luke and you think, you know what, we have got so far to go. I think it's an example of where someone has support needs and they're just not being met. Not only are they not being met, that someone is being treated in such an inhumane way. But Luke's story also has some hope, so it's an important one to tell. And I want to thank Mark for being here, because we've talked about this for the past 2 weeks, and it's been, I know, quite emotional for Mark in presenting this story, so I would really like to thank him from the onset. So, Mark.
Thanks, Deb. I'm an engineer, I love detail, and I've got way too much detail for the amount of time that I've got. And I hope I can do this story justice. I'm going to rush through it very quickly. Perhaps I was on a plane in Germany one day, I think I was flying from Stuttgart to Berlin, and the stewardess in her broken English said, "Sit down, buckle up, hold on, and enjoy the ride. It's going to be a bumpy one." Now, I've got to say that because I might cry during this presentation, and if I do, I'll stop, I'll keep moving. I just need a little bit of time. And if you want me to stop, just hold up your hands and go like, or do like this or something, because it's too much. Deb asked me to tell you a part of Luke's story. Luke's story is very long and very complex, and what she wanted me to focus on is just a little bit of an introduction into his early years, and the events that led to his leaving home when he was 15 years old, the consequences of that, and our journey since him moving out of home and moving to what was almost like paradise in New South Wales, and what's happened since he's come back to Victoria. So here we go. This is Luke. Handsome, strong, funny, lovable, honest, cheerful. These are the sort of things that his family and friends said of him at a person-centred planning meeting back in 2005. This is my family. Ellen's my wife. We've got 5 children. Luke, Joel, Hannah, Paul and Claire. I must say I like this arrangement up here, the slide. This is happy Luke. Now I'm going to talk about the early years. Luke was born normal birth after a normal pregnancy. But just prior to birth, he did suffer some in utero distress and was monitored for that. For 3 years, his development appeared to be completely normal, reaching all of the relevant milestones for a young man. But at about the age of 3, he started to show signs of internal distress. And after about a year of seeking advice from paediatricians, psychiatrists, psychologists, he eventually was given the diagnosis of PDD, autism. And I've got to stop and say, this is that slide to the lady I was talking to at lunchtime. Luke loved the farm, the great outdoors, and I'm going to digress from my original speech. You can see that there's a young lady called Lindsay holding on to Luke. excuse me, I don't know whatever happened to Lindsay, but if anybody knows Lindsay, tell her to give me a call. She loved Luke. As a little girl, she knew that Luke was different, but she loved him and she supported him as a friend. And that's the one thing I want you to take away from this, is what people like Luke need is friends. And my aim in life is to teach those friends how to support Luke appropriately. So we got the diagnosis of autism, but we weren't going to let that ruin his life or ours. So as a family, we did a lot of things, went on a lot of adventures, did a lot of dangerous things. But we had some good supports along the way. That's a lady called, in the back corner, Liz Fish. She came with us on our holidays just to support Luke. We were a happy family. Luke attended school. He went to Irabina IEP, he went to Irabina SDS for his first year, but in that first year he was coincidentally given haloperidol, and as a result he became almost stupefied and lost all language during that year. We didn't think that that was right. We had him taken off that medication, and in the following years he attended Essex Heights Primary School, where there was a principal who believed in integration and was determined to give Luke the best possible education. Here he is, learning at primary school. In 1997 we discovered a thing called ABA, and we devoured the Catherine Morris books and built our own ABA program. As clumsy as it was, it actually made a big difference in Luke's life. I'm going to skip forward in time to 2004, because that's when Luke left home. He was only 15. We loved camping. Like I said, we weren't going to let Luke's autism stop us from enjoying the good life. We went camping, we'd go bushwalking, we'd spend a lot of time on the beach. And here we are in Port Fairy. Happy family. Luke's not in that picture, but he's off to the side. We ended up asking for a spot out the back because we knew that Luke liked it quiet, even though he at times was very noisy. And they gave us this site right out the back of the caravan park, and we thought, this is going to be great. We'd only been there a couple of hours, and in the centre of the picture you might see something underneath the tent in the background. The people that turned up to camp right next to us was the Gypsy Jokers. Does anybody here know who the Gypsy Jokers are? They have a reputation, they're an outlaw motorcycle gang, and they have the reputation of being the most violent gang in the world. One day, Luke became upset. He insisted that he wanted to go for a ride in one of their little cars, because it was a hot rod show, and they'd brought all their hot rods and they were all lined up behind those tents there. And Luke said, I want to go in one. And I said, no, Luke, you're not going in one of those cars. I'm not going near that side of the camping ground. Luke raced over there. I ended up wrestling Luke to the ground, as I had been taught by the school's martial arts instructor to do. We were taught that when Luke became upset, the best thing to do was to grab him, lay him on the floor and basically sit on him until he came down. I did this. The head of the Gypsy Jokers walks up to me and says, mate, you can't do that here. I've got my family here. I don't want them exposed to that kind of violence. Luke just loved the beach. And he was very creative. Well, he still is. He helped me to build this dragon. On his own volition, he ran down the beach and collected all the shells and placed them where they are on this dragon. He loved fishing. And that swell is just enormous. Have you ever been to Port Fairy? It's not an optical illusion. That swell was very high above the boat. He loved water skiing, sort of. But he loved to run. He still loves to run. And he loved to just sit and think. And walk. After that camp, 2004, we arrived home to be told that there was no one willing or able to support Luke in their after-school care program. And before I go any further on what happened next, I need to explain some of the background. In 2000, Luke had left primary school. He was going to a specialist school for autism, but within the first few months he became distressed. And the school was saying, look, we're having trouble coping with his behaviours. We think you should see this doctor, and the doctor will prescribe some medication that we've been using with these other children. And we didn't really take that advice. Instead, we went and saw a psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist prescribed the medication in addition to the medication that Luke was already on, and that sent Luke into a deep and dark spiral, which I'd have to say pushed him into deep psychosis. There was a time when we were so distressed and he was so agitated, self-destructive, destructive of all property. We took him to hospital and they refused admission because we refused to let him go through these double doors so that they could look after him on their own terms. So we went home. He was covered with sores and welts. He would pinch his skin and scream until it bled. And he broke just about every window in our house. We left that psychiatrist, the medication was removed, and he recovered within a few weeks, but not completely. The damage had caused was to our health and well-being, and those who were caring for him was irreparable. We went to the doctor, recommended by the school, and he simply increased the dosage of medication to the point where Luke was on a double adult dose of major tranquilizers. It would have knocked me out. But Luke was still getting upset, still able to pick up people. He could pick me up at that size and throw me around. And unfortunately, because of the medication, he lost the ability to think and to reason. In this picture, he is so dopey that if I had let him go, he would have just fallen over. And that's a modified picture. You can probably pick it up. In the actual photograph, he has his mouth open, his tongue protruding, and he's drooling. He now suffers the permanent side effects of the brain damage caused by that medication. This is an example of a tardive dyskinesia, where his jaw moves uncontrollably and his tongue protrudes, and it interrupts his speaking. He also suffered what's known as an ocular gyrate crisis. Now, while these have abated and are extremely infrequent, they can be paralysing. Here he is at home, about to go into an ocular gyrate crisis. It didn't happen all the time, and so we continued on our lovely lifestyle of going for bushwalks. Here we are on the top of Cathedral Mountain. And not long after this photograph was taken, do you know where Cathedral Mountain is? Just north of Healesville, yeah? It's very steep, very rocky, very dangerous. And he was walking okay, and then all of a sudden he went into one of these crises, and I ended up having to carry him several kilometres while he was contorting and twisting, and I thought, there's something wrong with this medication, we've got to get him off. Strangely enough, I went to the inaugural autism conference in 2002, and I went to one of the lectures. That's a photograph from Autism News of the Congress, and I was standing up up the back. And at the end of a session on medication, I got up and asked the question. I said to the guy, look, you've told us about these new medications for autism, and you've told us about the warnings and the side effects. My son's exhibiting some of those side effects. What must I do to prevent those side effects from becoming permanent? He said, I can't answer your question, you'll have to come down and see me later. I went down the front later, and as I was going down, I was approached by psychiatrists from around the world and a lawyer. I ignored the lawyer and I listened to the psychiatrist, who said he should never have been on that dosage of medication and he needs to be taken off, and it's going to take you 2 years to get him off that medication, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. That was a very, very true statement. So that was at the end of 2002, and instead of assisting us with the drug withdrawal program, both DHS and the Department of Education resisted, insisting that Luke be restrained to the seat in the school bus with a harness, and that he put up with that for up to 5 hours a day. Eventually, in the beginning, that was a requirement from the day he started school, by the way, but in 2003 he was banned from travelling on the bus from home to school 5 hours a day because there was no harness could be found to keep him tied to his seat. One day, so being banned from the bus, Ellen had to drive him to and from school, and she would basically leave home and drop him off, drive home, wait an hour, go back to get him from school. What I forgot to say is that after that lovely holiday in Port Fairy, we were told that we had no after-school care, we had no weekend care, no respite, no one to help us, and the school with DHS decided that it was best if Luke only spent 12 hours a week at school. That meant that basically on the school days, Ellen drove him to school, drove home, waited an hour, drove back to the school, and then drove back home again. And on one day, Luke hit a teacher, and the school suspended him before Ellen had even got home. So she drove back to the school, picked up Luke, and instead of driving home, went to DHS and said, "I need some respite." This was Luke not long before he left home. I've skipped a little bit, but I'll probably leave it out. So forgive me if I've skipped forward to 2004 again. But in 2003, we found ourselves finding it very hard to get respite. Respite agencies would just pull out at the drop of a hat. One weekend we went to the family camp. We still persisted. We went to beautiful places despite having no support. You know, Luke's family love him. In 2003, we were so determined to continue providing good supports for Luke, we convinced the government to give us the money for his after-school care program and organise it ourselves. We bought this van and modified it so that he could travel safely. And that was going really, really well until the end of 2003, when that van broke down on a stinking hot day when the guys were out in the middle of nowhere. And they ended up in the summer holidays spending most of their time in this abandoned CAU where there was almost no backyard. Then of course we come back to January. We went to our holiday at Port Fairy, only to come home and be told no help was available. And the school saying 12 hours a week, and for most of that time Luke was either locked in this courtyard or in a classroom with one or two teachers. He was separated from his peers for almost the whole period. He would also get upset, and their standard response, as was taught by the martial arts expert, was to do 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5-person restraints with joint locks. It was after one of these episodes that they rang the Ellen and said, "Come and pick him up. You have to take him home. We can't cope." She arrives at the school. She says to Luke, "Get off." Says to the staff, "Please get off, Luke." And she says to Luke, "Get up, jump in the car, we're going home." And that's when she went to DHS and asked for some respite. So this is Luke just prior. He was completely oblivious to the fact that he was about to leave home. Our children knew what was about to happen, but he didn't. Hannah later wrote, in fact, I can't remember when she wrote it, but she wrote a story. She called it Monkey 127, which is about Luke and her dream of how he would be restored and reunited with his family, playing in the backyard. But within 4 weeks of Luke moving into residential or into shared supported accommodation operated by DHS, he attended the emergency department of the hospital 4 times. He broke his wrist, he suffered multiple lacerations, and according to the police, significant abuse. This was the place that he had to live in for 18 months that had been purpose modified to suit Luke's needs. This is Luke's bedroom window. It used to be perspex, but one night Luke pushed out the perspex and ran away. So the response was to board up all the windows. When I just argued that these portholes would not meet basic building regulations, they simply cut 2 more holes. This is Luke in his bedroom. Despite what was going on, we still tried hard to supply Luke with equipment and materials so that he could enjoy his time there. But there were problems. We installed this pool, we filled it up with water, Luke enjoyed it, but the next day staff let the water out and said it's too dangerous. But this was what was really dangerous, and I alluded to it before. I don't know whether you can read that. This is the car of one of the workers who was quite regular, and he would often turn up at work smelling of alcohol, sweat and BO. And one day I asked him about that. I said, "It smells like alcohol on your breath." He said, "On your breath." And he said, "Yeah, that's because I've been working as a barman all night." Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know what was worse, the truth or the lie. But we put up with it. Eventually, DHS moved Luke to a newer house that had been purpose-built for people with autism and challenging behaviours. It was a much nicer place, had a big backyard, 4-metre high fences so no one could run away. But it wasn't long before Luke was being locked in his own, what was called his area. Basically a bathroom, a bedroom, a little hallway and a little alcove where he could sit on the couch and watch TV. But we always maintained hope. We dreamed of a better life because we remembered the boy we knew and loved, the boy who loved us. Loved to go for driving, chasing cows, running. This picture I love because it says, with the right supports, with good friends, people who are trained to be a good friend, Luke can do anything. He participated in 2 10-kilometre fun runs, made really good time and enjoyed it immensely. In crowd of 3,000 people. He loved bike riding. Sometimes, most of the time by myself, but sometimes with family, sometimes with friends. That's his brother Joel on the right. He loved the beach, loved the beach. Hannah would love to sit and do puzzles and make wooden models with Luke. Sometimes we'd have good visits, but not always. This is Luke with his mum at the Crescent. When we come to 2005, despite the nice and new environment, we were determined to get Luke back into his own home, closer to home. So we bought the house next door. I'm going to hurry up now. We even got Ray Martin involved, and he ran a story, Out of Control, came to Greenock, got people involved at Parliament. We met some really nice politicians there who are still good friends today. 2006, we had to put everything, all our plans about Luke getting him back into his own home, close to home, on hold because Ellen developed cancer. By the end of 2006, her cancer was in remission and we faced a new challenge. Luke was about to leave school. This is Luke at his graduation. So here he was without school, no day program. Luckily, someone introduced us to a little company called IEC, and they provide intensive support programs for little children and some adults with autism. Through careful planning and great skill, they were able to engage Luke in a raft of activities that he just loved. They were also able to teach him about his emotions, how to stay calm. Here's Megan teaching Luke to count to 10 and breathe. 1, 2. And by doing that, she was enabled to help Luke to calm down, keep herself safe, and to keep other people safe. Because if she didn't do that, he could get very angry. But as soon as he calmed down, it was back to the task at hand. Here you can see what we call the stress thermometer. And we could use that to get Luke to regulate his own, or tell us how he was feeling. How are you feeling? Happy? Sad? Never ask him if he's feeling rage, because you didn't have to. But even in a state of rage, you could ask him and remind him to stop, calm down, take a breath, start counting. Counting relaxes him. And he knew that. And with someone he could trust, he would do it. And the result is he was able to enjoy friendships, really, really deep, good friendships. We thought it'd be good to get these people to provide some influence at the place where Luke was living. They came in and basically implemented their program at the CAU. But of course, they were limited to 30 hours a week and they had to leave. What they do is set Luke up with an activity that he loved to do and then they'd leave. Unfortunately, it didn't rub off on DHS and things just got worse for Luke. As I said before, Hannah wrote a story about Luke where she dreamed of him playing with the other monkeys from his family. Some of you might have seen this photo on the television or in the newspaper in 2008. Hannah loved Luke so much that she wanted to learn to drive his van so that she, when she met a good husband, would be able to take him out for walks and drives. But she died. 2009, Herald Sun came along and said, look, this is disgusting what you're living through. They wrote this story. Cut a long story short, some people from New South Wales read the story, came down and said, we want to meet Luke. And they were just amazing. And I'm going to have to skip through all these slides because I've run out of time. So we took the emergency exit. That's what that sign actually says, emergency exit only. And Luke went to New South Wales with these people. At first, it wasn't going to happen, but again, with the ABC's help, they ran a story on Luke. They showed images like this, Ellen with Luke, people talking about the problem, people talking about how they were going to fix the problem, me crying, Luke smiling. This lady saying that government has just agreed to let Luke go to New South Wales with a big packet of money. 2010, Luke moved to New South Wales, and their first priority was, and still remains, to get Luke to learn to trust us. And they worked really hard at it. They went through some terrible times, but it was a beautiful place. And within a few months, and this is where probably a good place almost for me to stop, Luke learned to live at peace again. He was happy. He had good friends. I mean, real friends. These guys were just country guys who had no real education. They became his best friends. They learned how to treat him and how to teach him to do things as simple as giving his mum a hug. Love the bird. I'm just going to flick through this now. They even let him wash his car. Good friends, going for drives in the ute, just sitting down reading the newspaper. He was happy. 2011, of course, we couldn't leave him in New South Wales. We had to bring him back to Victoria eventually. So we ended up buying a farm in Bendigo. Beautiful spot, still there, and that's where Luke is today. That's the view from the kitchen window. Anybody want to buy it? I'd live there myself, and that was our criteria. If you pick a house for someone with a disability to live in, you've got to ask yourself, do you want to live there? If the answer is yes, then that may be an appropriate place to live. We got friends together. It was hot. There was a lot of work to be done to make this place safe, not just for Luke, but for the workers that were engaged to work in his house. So with a bit of help from the neighbours, we dug a big hole and we put a lot of dirt up around the house to make the exits from the house level. It was a safety risk because originally there were steps leading down to a sloping path and it had to be flat. We redid all the concreting, all the pathways with the help of friends. We renovated inside. We built a bathroom, ensuite, office and bedroom for the staff. Eventually the house was ready. That's how it looks in the winters. Ice on the grass. Inside, this was Luke's home. A large 2-bedroom house. That's his bedroom. So on June 20th, 2012, here we are ready. We drove up to New South Wales, hired a trailer to pick up all of Luke's things. Now, when Luke went to New South Wales, he had nothing. When he came back, he had a trailer load of stuff, including 200 sets of clothes, because they taught him to stop ripping his clothes. When we arrived in the van, he jumped in and said, "Let's go." His carer, Ash, said, "Let's go." Luke was happy. We left his home in Denny. We even left the old white van in Denny. We just left it in the paddock, let someone else get rid of it. And we came down to Bendigo, and Luke was happy. Mum was happy. Dad was happy. Kids were happy. Luke was very happy. He chose his favourite chair, sat down, and he was at home, in his new home, closer to home. We thought we had achieved our dream. We thought it was so good we even got the Herald Sun to come and do another story, and they did. Enough room to fly a kite, watch the birds. This is the story that was published in the Herald Sun last year, Saving Our Luke. And this is Ash Werner. I've got to tell you about him. If nothing else, I want to encourage people to see themselves as a friend. You know, I don't care who you are, what your abilities are, be someone's friend. Ash was Luke's best friend. Ash was keen to help. Here, I've got work to do. I've got to dig this hole and fill it up again, as you do on a farm. And you might say, hang on, he's Luke's carer. He's there by himself with Luke. Where's Luke? Luke is happy, lying in the grass, singing to himself. And I have to say, this is leadership, because Ash is not just helping me, he's helping Luke. He's showing Luke what normal life is like. After I took that photograph, Luke picked up a shovel, started shoveling dirt, filling in holes, shoveling gravel, filling up the wheelbarrow, mowing the grass, hoeing the garden. That's leadership in friendship. Everything was going great until in 2012, December, Ash Werner, superhero, you've heard of John Hancock, the movie, he's just like Ash. Ash Werner died at home as a result of complications of sleep apnea and asthma. and what was the other one? Reflux. So we lost our key carer, Luke's best friend. Best friend, best friend. Here's Luke talking to his mum on the phone, something that Ash taught him to do. Luke with one of his best friends, a carer, actually Megan from the earlier photographs, the girl who taught Luke to count to 10. Ash doing what he does best, making other people feel relaxed and happy. That's a good carer. Teaching Luke to hug. Now Luke lives in Bendigo. He's got some good carers, Tara. Photographs by Bruce Wright, by the way, who's another one of Luke's carers. Teaching Luke to be gentle, happy with his sister Claire, good food, good activities, learning to hug again. What's the future? Luke's got no idea. Hey, that was pretty good. I didn't set that. Was that you or me? I think that was my phone. Accident. Somebody sent me just a message. What's the future hold? Don't know. Luke can be happy with good friends and good supports. At the moment, things are not going so well. We're in a bit of a hole, and that's probably what that message is about. But we still have hope because we know what it takes to support Luke. We know what it takes to keep him happy. And it comes down to good friendships, good relationships, and making sure that those people who choose to be Luke's friends are well equipped with the best strategies possible. I sometimes say 5 things you need. You need money, you need a good management system, you need a place to live and places to go, you need a raft or a suite of things to do and things to look forward to, and you need people. If you've got those 5 things, you've got a good chance of living a good life. A couple more slides to go. I know I'm over time, I'm sorry. This is happy Luke, keeps me going. He's not an animal, he doesn't deserve to be locked in an institution. This is what we strive for. Luke, living in his own home, close to home, as a much loved and respected member of his community, spending time with his family. And in the future, celebrating as we have been able to in the past. Here's Luke sitting at the table with his family, his grandma, with Hannah, with the rest of us. Luke picks up his glass, and this is my closing remarks to you. He said, God bless every one of you in the work you do. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing the work you do. Thank you for supporting people like my son, Luke. Thank you for helping families like mine.
Thank you, Mark. It's an astonishing story, a heartfelt story, one filled with love, pain, humiliation, love, hope, and friends. And really in Luke's life, he needed nothing more than all of us need, love, friendship, and a place to call home. So I want to thank you, Mark. I know how hard that was to put together, and I know that it sat with me, you know, and anchored me in why I do this work. And I think we all need to hold on to this story because this could happen to anybody. So let's hold on to Luke's story. Let's make it worthwhile because certainly Mark and Luke and his family have shown us some leadership. Thank you.